Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my Ghost Fanfic. As I mentioned before, I'm going to bring another one shot. This time is a regular one shot. So I've done the instead one shot already, and now I'm here. We have a regular one shot, and it's called "Can I Tempt You?" All right. So this is a good Omens inspired. I think it's a TV show called Good Omens, and it's a modern angel slash demon alternate universe. Okay. All right. So the prompt here. All right, so it was written in 2019. So this is 4 years. No, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 3 years. And the prompt says a good omen-inspired clans feature an angel and a demon reminiscing over their growing friendship through the years. There's a disclaimer, according to Witty. They said it's been over 10 years since they read the book, and they hadn't had a chance to watch that show. And it's meant to follow the story of Crowley and Aziraphale, but just inspired by those two. So they're not history buff, so okay, well, it's gonna be big experience to do when they're reminiscing. So, all right, let's read this one here. And before we're gonna do that, there's a trigger warning. Okay, there is a trigger warning, so that everybody knows will be aware. Okay, so there's going to be a mention of airplane in danger of crashing. They're never in any real danger, but if that's a trigger for you, be aware. And if you don't like having this little comfortable of the airplane's about to go down and crash and all, you can just not watch. You can just not watch it. You cannot read this one. If you don't like this, some kind of this trigger that you have to deal with. Anyways, let's read the summary. Lance and Keen have been dancing around each other for millennia. It's taken them a while to see eye to eye, and even if their rivalry has never really faded, it's become friendly. And the agreement, that's the thing, helping each other out here and there, crossing lines between temptations and blessings, sharing their miracles. It makes things easier. It blurs the lines, makes the black and white between angel and demon very gray. And Lance, he's looking to blur the lines a little more, maybe muddle up those lines of friendship to something, well, more. He's not sure the best way to go about it. So far, he's found that putting himself in danger certainly gets Keith's attention, and he's willing to dance this dance to see where it goes. Again, this is from Good Omens, so I'm just gonna look up for 1 second. Yeah, Good Omens is a TV series, and you can watch that one. This is Amazon original. All right. Well, enough about that. Let's read this. Can I tempt you? So here's the thing. There are very few things in this world that have proven to be constant. The life of cycle and death, for example, is one that living beings have been contributing since the dawn of time. The battle of good and evil is another classic. Heaven versus hell, angels and demons, and all that. Though the lines of that particular concept are far more blurred than mankind likes to admit. The cycle of time, day into night, night to day, is a concept that Lance is particularly fond of. He loves the bright warmth of the sun, but he also has an undeniable fondness for the stars. Every day brings something new. It's exciting, and he'll be forever grateful that he's held it high enough stand to be given a job here and not in the office. But back to the constants. Those are all the big sort of constants, the cosmic, planet-wide ones. There are a few things on the smaller, more micro scale too. Things that seem so inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, but can be undeniably relied upon. Like the fact that if you tell yourself you won't forget something, you will inevitably forget it. A constant, a cycle of forgetfulness that can be relied on. That one was his, though at this point, he doesn't quite remember the context that drove him into it. Another is the fact that in Florida, it will rain for approximately 10 to 15 minutes, sometime in late afternoon. It will always go from clear skies to torrential downpour with little warning, and it will never be when you expect it to be. He will always expect it and be surprised all at once. A constant. Though he can't for the life of him remember whether that one was supposed to be a good or bad thing. Maybe a little bit of both. He and Keith like to dabble like that. Stoplights will always be turned red when you're in a hurry. If you say, nothing could possibly go wrong, something will. And when Lance texts Keith, he will wait exactly 27 and a half minutes to text back, merely because he knows that is the exact amount of time to the second that it will take for Lance's cracked patience to turn into mild annoyance. The board shifts into true frustration. It's constant. And since it's so reliable, Lance knows to begin this conversation before he has even boarded his plane. They're well into the air by the time Keith texts back, and having anticipated this, as well as the time it would take to convince Keith to join him. Lance has already paid the outrageous fees for the in-flight Wi-Fi. Thankfully, one doesn't live for 6,000 years without hoarding a fair share of human currency. Hey, Keithy boy. Hope you're having a good day. Lots of reading, no customers, all that jazz. Sounds dull. I bet you like something to spice things up. And because Keith is so predictable, Lance able to time the exact moment when he should perform this little miracle, for the lack of a better word. What do you want, Lance? I'm busy. Too busy for me? Always. Rude? What if I told you I might be in actual moral danger and might possibly need your help? Is this danger like the incident in Rome, or like the time you were caught up in the Battle of Culloden? Turn on the news channel and find out yourself. I don't own TV, Lance. We're not in the 90s anymore. Your haircut could fool me. Find it. Google plane losing control autopilot fail. He stares at his phone screen until it goes black, then sighs as he lets his hand drop, resting an elbow on the arm of his chin and his palm. He stares out the window as the clouds whipping by. There's a lot of turbulence going on. The plane jerking far more than it should. It makes his stomach drop, body reacting to it even as his mind stays calm. The human body really is such a marvel. Around him, he can hear people muttering. They're not full panic yet, but he's been around a disaster or two. He knows how to recognize the build, the sudden hush, the tidal whispers, the gasp as the plane drops a few hundred feet before picking back up again. The worry, but the real panic won't hit until the pilot makes the announcement. The passengers may not know yet, no doubt to reduce the amount of hysteria, but surely by now all the local airports know, clearing airspace. Trying to find a safe place to land, trying to figure out how. He knows for a fact that a couple of news outlets have caught wind of the impending tragedy. He knows this because it's his doing. Honestly, with the invention of the internet and smartphones, the spread of information and access to it travels at an incredible speed. It's so much easier to get Keith's attention these days. It Italy taps his phone against his as he waits. An impatient frown pursing his lips. And then his phone vibrates. Lance. Oh, ho, ho. The period. That's how Lance knows Keith's giving him that stern look. That one with the narrowing of his pretty eyes, usually accompanied by a twitch of his brows. Lance had been on the receiving end of it many times over the millennia, and it never gets old. Especially once he figured out that there's some fondness mixed in there, and that fuels it. He feels the smile tugging at his lips as he types out his reply. Yes? Are you in that plane? Maybe? And just to drive home his point, he sends strong emojis, smashing his thumbs on the angel, the airplane, the sad face, a looking face, a shrug, an airplane. Oops, that was a mistake. Oh well, he'll live it because he knows he hates it. Stop sending me emojis. Half of those don't even make sense. You need to learn to adapt to the times, Keith. It's part of our job to blend in, and you're still stuck in the 80s. Even time moves too fast. True, you know what else does? Planes. Especially when their systems are failing and gravity's taking hold. We will need a miracle at this point. You've got to be kidding me. Lance just responds with a series of shrug emojis before clicking his phone off once more. His smile tucks into a full-blown grin. He's never used to grin so much before he met Keith. Well, not real grins, anyway. And he should really amend that to the past few centuries. Things have been rough at the beginning. The two of them always butting heads. Paths always crossing. Wires always getting tangled. Canceling each other's influence out. Both of them stubbornly trying to simultaneously outdo each other while firmly ignoring one another. Only for all it to be in vain. They danced that futile dance for millennia, and even now it's not sure when it changed. They didn't sit down to talk about the agreement. It sort of just happened, organically, naturally. Stubbornness slowly shifting away. That fire diffusing into something warmer, less hostile and more companionable. They didn't agree to the agreement so much as they sort of just fell into it, and they've been here ever since. Since then, Lance has found himself smiling more, grinning more, to the point where this body has lathered lines around his eyes, and doing so no longer aches in his cheeks. Hey, Lance says, leaning across the empty middle seat to speak to the woman on the other side in a loud whisper. It's okay. That sounds very basic. Humans usually need more than that. He hopes his smile is helping, though she's looking at him like he's a little crazy. That's fair, honestly. Everything's going to be alright. He tries again. She offers a tentative smile, glancing around the plane as it jerks once more. Most humans don't like talking in public, but he's willing to bet the circumstances are making her nervous enough to try small talk. Small talk, he would like to know, is an evil mankind came up with themselves. The needlessly social creatures with a strange ideology of politeness. Still, there's something endlessly charming about it. Keith, however, hates it. Yet he still tends to engage in it with Lance. It feels like the plane is about to go down, she says with this nervous little laugh. Oh, it is, Lance assures her. Her mouth falls open and her eyes go wide. What? The plane, Lance says, slower, gesturing around them. It's going to go down. The systems are all messed up. The pilots should be losing control right about now. How did you? She swallows hard, hands gripping the jacket in her lap. Her expression suddenly goes sharp, losing all traces of a weak attempt at humor. That's a terrible thing to say. I agree, he nods. Sometimes the truth is the worst of it all. You don't know what's going on with the plane. Oh, I do. How? She sounds mad, confused, perhaps frustrated. Definitely. This wasn't Lance's decision. You're just a passenger. Call it a hunch, he says with a shrug. He's in the rudder as the speakers crackle to life. The pilot giving an announcement that they're expecting extreme turbulence and stay in their seats. Buckle their seatbelts. Seats up, tray tables up. Land in position, Lance notes. Prudent. He manages to keep his voice even if there is a strain there that he can't quite hide. The woman in the aisle seat looks positively pale. Hey, he whispers again, and she gives him a sharp look. It's all right. My friend is coming to save us. He should be here soon. I saved this seat for him. He gestures to the empty seat he's been leaning over. She looks at him, brows furrowed. No one has that seat. Yet. Lance shoots her a cheeky wink. He's coming though. Mark my words. I'm in danger now. He may seem grumpy about it, but he always comes when I'm in danger. You're insane, she whispers, shaking her head. How can they possibly do that? She asks, Scoops, really. Lance can tell she's humoring him now for a distraction more than anything. We're on a plane, in the air. Lance hums, playfully thoughtful. True, you need miracle, honestly. Lance, he knows that voice, deep and gruff, not all pleased. But when is he really? Disgruntled, but not angry, per se. It sends a shiver of delicious excitement down his spine all the same. Oh, human bodies. Positively delightful. He looks past the woman. She's whipped around to look at Keith as well. But that's beside the point. Lance has already forgotten about her, and his eyes trail up towards the dress in black shirt that is, honestly, too tight across his chest. A black leather jacket with red highlights up to a sharp face. angled features. A scar resting up his right cheek. Long, unruly dark hair, tied back into a low, messy ponytail. Lance will admit he loves the ponytail. He has had his hair in many lengths and many styles throughout the years, but no matter the length, whenever he wears a ponytail, it makes Lance's knees feel weak and his heart go all fluttering. The first time it happened, Lance thought for sure that he was mortally ill, despite his physical body being a mere vessel. He had even gone so far as to seek human medical assistance, only to be told he had a case of the butterflies. Infatuation, they said, as if having such feelings for Key of all people wasn't life altering realization. It's not fair, really. Lance spends so much effort trying to keep up with the times. His appearance in every decade is carefully crafted, researched, and chosen specifically to look, well, cool. Just because he's over 6,000 years old doesn't mean he has to look. Everything about this flesh vessel is perfectly designed and constantly modernized. And he's just, has always just, he's so effortlessly flawless. A little behind the times, yes, but it always seems to work for him. He's always preferred dark clothes, no matter the century. Darker clothes, sparks of red. Lance says how much it suits him, almost as much as he loves it. It's just frustrating that he can be also endlessly attractive without even trying. Nevertheless, the fact remains that he's here, and he's here for Lance. Lance turns back on, full force, but Key merely frowns at the sight of it. Lance, however, is not to put off. It's that first frown, the forced one, the one that rarely means what Key wishes it meant. Key, you made it, Lance says, sitting on straight and gesturing to his face. I saved you a seat. Can't see Kate's eyes. The bastard thinks to wear these ridiculously outdated sunglasses whenever they're out in public, but he lifts one bushy eyebrow. Before I can say anything, however, there's a sharp, Sir! They both turn to look at the stern fine head. She looks annoyed, but Lance can easily pass that as a fear. She looks about as pale as everyone else, but there's a tension in her movements and a tremble in her hands that tells Lance she knows exactly what's happening. I'm going to have to ask you to take your seat and buckle your seatbelt. He huffs, eyeing the seat and going, right. Malcolm shovels past the woman in the aisle seat to collapse stiffly to his own. He shifts uncomfortably, filling out the space allowed in the small economy cabin. As the flight attendant clears her throat, he rolls his eyes and buckles the seatbelt, giving her a flat look before she walks away. I can't believe you're flying economy, of all things. This plane doesn't exactly have first class. At least the premium seats have more legroom. I'm pretty sure little legroom on planes was your doing. Lance sees, propping an elbow on the arm rest dividing them, laying his chin on his palm to lean close to Key. A coy smile curves lips. How wicked of you, Key. Now suffer at the hands of your own misdeeds. Can't see Key's eyes, but there's an entire head in motion that indicates he rolls them. It was your idea. But your miracle. Speaking of miracles, he crosses his arm over his chest, turns slightly in his seat, and rolling his head to the side to look at Lance. His lips are turned down. Care to explain why you don't just miracle yourself out of this situation? Lance shrugs, offering his hands up in defense gesture. What can I say? I've been reprimanded by the head office once again. Too many minor miracles or something like that. He lifts an eyebrow once more. So expressive, even if Lance rarely gets to see his eyes. This will count as a minor miracle? Well, you know how they're in the head offices? Lance says, making a face, making a dismissive gesture. I'd rather not push it. It's all game, really. A dance. A back and forth that they become accustomed to. They learn the steps of it through trial and error, wrote the melodies themselves. The first time had been an accident. That much, Lance swears. Just a little temptation gone wrong, putting him in a bad spot, stuck in the prison cell and sentenced to execution. There was irony in it, of course, being executed by his own creation, the guillotine. That one had gone over well with the head office. and realized at the time just how popular the contraption would be, or how many heads it would cost to roll. If he's being perfectly honest, and he'll never admit it to anyone besides Keith, it had been somewhat of an act of mercy, for to be sent to execution were being practically brutalized by tired, lazy, and clumsy executioners. If mankind was hell-bent on executing each other, the least he could do was offer a quick and clean way to go, lessening suffering and all that merciful stuff. But anyway, the point is, Lance had been caught up in the whole execution craze, and he was going to miracle himself out. He really was. But he had also just used his abilities to rescue a few people, and really didn't want the head office looking into his recent use of power. Thankfully, he had happened to be in the area, and after some gripping and a snapping back and forth, he got them both out of there. That sort of started a trend between them, showing up in just the nick of time to save the other. And this isn't to say that he has never been in need of rescue, because he certainly has. The man is a hothead and stubborn to a fault. He'll do what he thinks is right and what he impulsively decides to do, and be danged with the consequences. So Lance has had his fair share of heroic antics. That being said, he has also, in the past few centuries, started, well, crafting instances where he can call for help. It's not his fault, okay? He makes it so easy. Always showing up is the only guaranteed way Lance can see him. And if he's being honest, he gets this little thrill over the fact that he will so readily drop everything to come see him. I was in the middle of something, he hubs, sinking down in his seat just an inch, lips pursed in that cute little frown of his. See what it means? He will drop anything to rescue him. His grumpiness can't fool Lance, as much of a cover as Lance's instant act is. It's just the part they play in this little game, this familiar back and forth. Oh? Lance lets brow. What book is it this time? He has a thing for books, which is a nice way to say obsession. He'll no doubt read a little bit of everything, but he finds history and non-fiction to be dreadfully boring, as one does when they live through the entirety of human existence. The inconsistencies with historical accuracy tend to irritate Key more than anything. So instead, he loves fantasy and science fiction more than anything. New, unexplored worlds built from human ingenuity and imagination. A new series by Philip Pullman. Lance's brow drops, contemplative. He's not quite interested, but he cares enough, and Keith's excitement over his little hobby is cute enough that Lance knows how to stay engaged. Do I know that one? He wrote his Dark Materials trilogy. Doesn't ring a bell. I actually made you read that one. Which you made me read so many. You chose to read most of them. Perhaps that's why I don't remember. There's too many. For someone who doesn't like reading, you read quite a lot, it said Witherspoon. That knowing kind. The kind the kind that holds the candle to flame, burning like a secret behind his eyes. Lance leans forward, the same kind of smile playing across his own lips, teasing as he lowers his lids, so close that he hopes he can feel the breath of his words as he says, low and coy. What can I say? I like indulging you. He turns, just slightly, a subtle shift, just enough, just so he's facing Lance a little more fully. Lean in just so. Lance wishes he could see those eyes, but his smirk is enough as he whispers, I think you just like tempting me. It's what I do, Angel. Attention passengers. The speakers crack into life, effectively breaking the mold. This is your pilot speaking. Oh, great. Lance watches, leaning away from Keith with a roll of his eyes. Here we go. He watches it, amusement chasing away the coy smirk as says, these people deserve to know what's going on. No, they don't, Lance says with a pout. Overhead, the captain begins to explain the situation, and calmly as he can. The systems are failing, losing control, blah blah. They're just going to panic and then notice the captain is near instant. Voices rising to a cacophony of frantic whispers, shouts, and screams. It gives Key a point of view. See? Kate merely raised her up. Don't you think it's right of them to panic? Not when you're going to say them all. What makes you so sure? Because you're not a demon, Kate. Greater good and all that. Helping people. Secret softly behind that bad boy letter exterior. That's your M.O. Sometimes I wonder if you're really a demon. He says calmly, casually. I am Lance from behind those curse shades. But then you do something like this to get my attention. Ah, so they're getting rid of their pretense. Fine. It works, doesn't it? You're here. He adds a smirk for good measure. Unfortunately, the atmosphere is ruined by the chaos erupting around them. People shouting, crying, wailing, trying to make phone calls and trying to be heard around one another. All the while, the plane jerks and drops. It feels like one of those thrill rides humans love so much. How can you two be so calm? The woman in the aisle seat says, staring at them both with wide, wild eyes. Lance's brows furrow, lips pursed to a scowl, not a pout. Thank you very much. We're trying to have a conversation here, he says loudly, rolling his eyes, his head cracking his neck, and then makes a gesture with his hands, a snap with his fingers, leaning into their finger guns, pointing at the general air. He's very proud of his finger guns. It's something he's picked up recently, and he thinks it suits him. It's cool. The noise in the plane cabin dulls almost immediately as the general calm settles over everyone. They're still fearful, of course. You can't erase their fear, but you can give them hope. Fate. I firmly believe that everything will be alright, and thus they feel less of a need to panic. Keith's eyebrows shoot upward as he glances around, head nodding slightly. Hope, he says simply, turn back to Lance with a small smile. Nice touch. Definitely not demonic, though. Lance waves a hand around the air, vague and dismissive. Demonic, angelic, does it really matter? We're all the same stock anyway. Keith leans over then, across their shared armrests, clearly to Lance's face. He tilts his chin up, tilts his head to the side. The hair falling from his ponytail dances playfully across Lance's skin, tickling his neck. Humans. These bodies are so sensitive. It makes shivers run down his spine. His lips barely graze his ear as he speaks, breath hot and voice low. Lance feels like he's simultaneously frozen and melting. Bumps appear all over his arms, hearts aflutter, stomach twisting got hot. If he wasn't already used to these feelings, he would definitely think he had caught some sort of human plague. And they say Lance is the demon with temptations. Meanwhile, Keith's sitting here, dressed in black and leather, with a wicked smirk on those sinfully pretty lips. If he didn't already know they were of the same stock, Keith would make a believer out of him. There's no other explanation of how an angel could look so tempting. What happened to no minor miracles? Keith pulls back, but it doesn't move out of space. Stays close. Smirk all coin smug. Lance scowls at him, or at least tries his best. He even scoops, for good measure. If they ask, I'll say it was selfish. They love that in the head office. Selfish, huh? Clearly, I want to be able to talk to you. A raise of his eyebrow, a cock of his head, genuine curiosity, and this baffling innocence chasing away that cold fire. This is when he really starts to show his angelic organs. About what? Lantros, looking away. I don't know. We haven't talked in a while. You're always so busy. He adds air quotes, for good measure. You could always just come by the shop. You hate people coming by your shop, Lance scoops. You do everything in your power to make sure people don't come by. And if they do, that they'll leave as quickly as possible. Kate Snow sprinkles, looking for all the world like a petulant child. I don't want them buying my books. It's a bookshop, but they're my books. Lance just smiles as he huffs, sinking lower in the seat, shoulders rising, arms tightening across his chest. And then, in a gentle mutter Lance might not have heard if he had quieted down. He says, besides, I don't mind when it's you. And because he can't quite let things go, he leans in, a soft turn to a grin. What was that? Keith glares at him. You heard me. I did, but I don't want to hear it again. I barely believe you, grumpy Keith. The great and famous angel with a mullet. It's not a mullet. It is. It's the style. It was in the 1980s. Whatever. I'm trying to call attention to you a minute like through my presence. Keith scoops, rolling his eyes, making it seem indignant and obvious as he says, I enjoyed your presence for centuries. You know that. And it does. But boy, does it send an arrow right through his heart to hear Keith admit it loud. The whole point of their little game is that they don't admit it aloud. The whole point of this whole charade is to be as obvious and subtle as they can be at the same time. Well, I'll keep that in mind for next time, Lance says. And he really can't help his grin. Doesn't mind so much when Keith glances at him, smiling a little one of his own. But I will miss all of this. Being in situations where you pretend you need rescue when you really don't. I told you I do need rescue. The head office, we both know your head office doesn't really care about frivolous minor miracles. Yeah, well, the more I do, the more they might look into it. And we really don't need them poking around in my recent use of power. They might find some from the past few millennia look suspiciously like blessings. If they haven't noticed so far, I doubt they will. Keith says with a roll of his eyes, a smug smile playing in his lips. Besides, your reputation precedes you. Lance goes, only because I'm getting credit for some of the things humans think of themselves. Not to mention some of the things you come up with. Honestly, some of my best work is through you. Kate's smile remains smug, but it turns a hair more genuine. Boyd's just a little softer as says, was that a compliment? Should an angel really be touched when I'm complimenting your ability to tempt humankind to their own destruction? Shoots Key a playful grin, and Key, quick as ever, doesn't even hesitate. Seems only fitting when the comment is coming from a demon who seems to excel at giving people blessings. Lance sits back in the seat, humming thoughtfully and gazing out the window at the rapidly approaching Earth, because that really is the meat of things, isn't it? Sometimes I'm not sure I'm really cut out for this whole demon business anyway. He mumbles, resting one elbow on the armrest, closest to the window, propping his chin up, one finger tapping his cheekbone. The other lays on the armrest between them. I didn't really mean to. I didn't really fall. Just got wrapped up in the wrong crowd. And doing what I wanted to do was fun for a while. Chaos and all that. Not having to answer to the Almighty. It has its perks. For what it's worth. Land faces when a hand falls over his own. Forearm resting across Lance's. Leather against the back of his hand. Fingers intertwined on his own. His eyes snap to where pale skin overlays brown. Can't help but think they look good next to each other. Can't help but marvel at the warmth of Keith's touch. Can't help but wonder what it would be like without those damnable gloves. Can't help but choke on the butterfly springing to life in his chest. I think you would have made a good angel too. He made his eyes open, offers him his adorable little smile and a look that's so incredibly intimate, private, and fond, and it feels like a shot right through Lance's foresight. Sometimes I doubt I was meant to be an angel. Sometimes I wonder what it would have been like if I had fallen for you. I'm not sure we would have gotten along. No? Nah, we wouldn't have been rivals for one. Actually, we would have, but for entirely different reasons. I doubt we would have bumped into each other as much. It's definitely more interesting when we're on opposing sides. It'd be less exciting if we had the same goals. Annoying you wouldn't have been so much fun, and we would never have to come to the agreement. Lance put his hand over beneath Keith's, squeezed his fingers back as he continues softly. I like the agreement. I like what it allows us to be. Even if both of our head office could have us decorporalized. Lance tilts his head, grin wicked, wink devilish. What's life without a little risk? Safer? Keith offers. Lance nods, then comes. More boring. And then Keith's nodding with it. Thumb absentmindedly running over his knuckles. making delicious shivers erupt across landscapes. Not as fun. So you admit that my antics are fun, Lance says, leaning toward him, pressing their arms together, waggling his eyebrows. He leans his gaze steadily, lips quirking into a small smile, but you can't quite contain it. So you admit all these rescue calls are just your antics? I, you, Lance sputters for a second, expression twisting as he tries to find the right words. And okay, maybe he exaggerates his facial jargon a bit. He always seems to enjoy what he does. He's always amused by it. And a happy key, even when he slapped at Lance's sake, is an adorable key. Some of them were real, he lifts a brow. The Library of Alexandria? That was real. I didn't mean to cause that fire. I still haven't forgot you. I still haven't forgotten myself. Speaking of fire, what about the witch trials? That one was a little on purpose. When Keith gives him a look, he huffs, waving his free hand in the air. Honestly, it was fun being on trial. I didn't have to fake all of it. I'm sure I still have scars from those crosses they pressed against me. He sticks out a finger, pointing accusingly at Keith's nose, flicking it for good measure. He looks equal parts, disgruntled and surprised. You didn't have to wait until the fire was beneath me before finally rescuing me. I thought you deserved it after your performance. Were you not entertained? Not the point. What about nearly being mummified? On purpose. Lance, you saved me. So I don't see what the big problem is. The kidnapping in London on purpose. The cabin purpose. That time in Paris. Accident, but I melted on purpose. The time you were locked away in Italy for quarantine, I was just here trying to get one of my favorite restaurants. There was this lovely little pasta place. The plague was being introduced in Europe. How was I supposed to know that? You're credited to it. All I did was tempt some sailors to leave early and head home as quickly as possible from a plague infested area. Wait, don't tell me. It wasn't just because I was craving pasta. Lance? Okay, but how was I supposed to know the plague would combine with different strands and infest most of Europe? Besides, you got me out of quarantine and we had a lovely dinner in Spain instead. Everything turned out fine. I can't believe you, he says with a sigh, shaking his head. And yet, he still hasn't let go of Lance's hand. The fact that Lance emphasizes by squeezing gently. And yet, you always dare to rescue me all the same. Someone needs to, he grumbles, sounding out as displeased by it as he no doubt hopes to. Besides, I'm not the only one who gets into trouble. You nearly lost your body in the library of Alexandria. I need to save at least some books. And there was that time you were nearly captured because you wandered into an ancient war zone. I got lost, he huffs, grumbling under his breath. Besides, territorial lines weren't clearly marked back then. Not to mention the time we were out for a drink for the first time in ages. And you got arrested because you were wearing red. He throws his free hands in the collar. It was just a collar. We were in Boston. And things were tense around that time. You look like an officer. I like the style. And you nearly paid for it by losing your body. Imagine the paperwork. You're welcome, by the way, for getting you out of that with little hassle. We need to stop making up when things are teased. Speaking of tease, Lance trails off, waving a hand toward the window. He blinks bafflement and confusion, shifting the oh, right. Let's hand snapping his fingers in the air. Oh boy, that took a lot of effort for me to read this whole lengthy part of it. This is the entire section. They're at this little plain things here that it took a little while. So, because this is what to do. They had to deal with this agreement. Even their head offices are not into the simplest ways as all possible. People are just trying to calm down on this little airplane that they're about to crash, this little big turbulences. Everyone's feeling like insane and being angry or they're crying that they're gonna fall, they're going to die. But the between Lance and Keith were it takes a little point between what does Angel do, what does the demon do, how they save each other, all that little fun stuff. Man, this one part of this fic, it took a little while, it took a little longer for me to process it. But to come by and save somebody else, and no matter what the events, and they've been running through a lot of history, right? It's a bunch of things, and they will have to understand this. Okay. Oh, that took a lot of energy out of me, right? When they finally stepped in the air, they went to this place on where they're going to be safe. They're just having this little combo and whatnot. All right, let's move on. The plane makes a successful emergency landing in the nearby river. After having the autopilot and several other systems go out, in a mysterious lack of fuel, the pilot managed to wrangle back control long enough to make the landing that, while bumpy, was nothing short of a miracle. Not a single passenger was harmed, nor any buildings along the way, though Lance is sure there are no doubts some fish in the river that are rather disgruntled. Ugh, Lance groans, peeing off his life vest and shaking out his arms. He's positively dripping, clothes a mess, hair streaming rivulets of water into his eyes. He hears a soft chuckle from behind him as he stumps the river bank. I thought you liked the water. I do, but I hate being in wet clothes. There's a difference, Keith. Whatever you say. When they get into a flatter surface, they distance themselves from the crowd, past the emergency vehicles and away from those taking attendance, wrapping people up in shock blankets as they emerge from the river. No one stops them. They barely even bat an eye as the two walk, stomp, in Lance case, past. He pauses to wring out his shirt, hearing another soft laugh behind him. Come here, you idiot! He turns then, fully prepared to keep Key from scalp. Instead, his left son's Key reaches for him. He grabs the front of Lance's shirt, pulling him close. With one stiff jerk of Lance's collar, the moisture left in his clothes and the water on his person evaporates, as it does from the Key. Droplets rising into the air and sparkling in the sun before dissipating to nothing. He watches it all, eyes wide and lips parted, mystified, awed. And when he looks back at Keith, the man is just smirking, eyes lidded, knowing. See what it means? Keith is just so effortlessly cool. Then Keith's hand smoothed down his shirt, straightening it and smothering it down before lifting the hand, tucked fingers beneath his jaw, closing his mouth. Lance blinks, then blurts. It's less tense now. Keith lifts a brow, a small smile coiled in his lips. We just survived a near plane crash. And we're still alive and dry. You're here. I'm here. Lance takes hold of one Keith's hands. A pleased thrill running through him as Keith instantly makes their fingers together, right down to his toes, making them curl. He uses his other hand to gesture over his shoulder with a thumb. I know of this nice little place on the beach that sells the best garlic knots. Both Keith brows go up at that. Here? No, in Cuba. Keith nods slowly, thoughtfully, making a show of thinking, even though he still hasn't let go of Lance's hand, even though they both know the answer. This, after all, just part of their dance. I never had garland knots before, he says, slowly, contemplating. Well then, you have to try them, Lance nods decisively. And we're done? Maybe I could come back to your shop with you? He looks surprised at that. Lance can't blame him. Now he's off script. He's making up new steps. But what's life without a little risk? He's tired of dancing around Keith. He's ready for something more. He runs his thumb over Keith's knuckles, lowering his voice as he steps forward, putting them toe to toe, trying to be as genuine as possible, as confident, past his uncertainty, as he says, and maybe when we're alone, you can actually take off those stupid shades so I can see your pretty eyes. Eyes that he knows are unlike any other. Eyes like galaxies, purple indigo, like the night sky, sparkling with flecks of silver like stars. Eyes that he has to keep hidden because they're too angelic to be human. Eyes that Lance could and would lose himself in. Heat smiles, his free hand shifts, moving to cup his jaw. A thumb runs lightly across Lance's bottom lip, a touch so simply fleeting. Are you trying to tempt me, demon? Lance grins beneath the bat of his thumb. Depends. Is it working, Angel? It might be. Take me for God not, and I will see if I'll let you take me home. And this, feeling deep inside, welling up in his chest, making his lungs feel tight and his heart full, making his pulse go wild and erratic, burned up in his gun and crawling with a brick tingling heap beneath his skin. This feeling of being grounding and floating away all at once. This strange, peculiar feeling that only heat can cause. It's simply ineffable. Okay, that is pretty much it with that story of Can I Tempt You? This is one of those that I ran is really clean, little slightly. So, but there's a little trigger warning about the danger of repercussion. But thank God they survived. No one was hurt. They finally made safely to the emergency land. Just to get everything helped by and all. Well, that's great. They finally get back to the things they were, and they finally survived. So, well, at least they probably stay to where they are, and then just they're gonna stay wherever their place is going to be. And now Lansing Key will take summer places like in Cuba, taking them to this place where they make garlic knots because Lance likes garlic knots, to be frank. He likes those garlic knots because I also like garlic knots. When it comes to pizzeria, yeah, there's a lot of garlic knots there. But anyways, the point of this too is that they want to keep what is life without risk now that it's coming off and going through all this some sort of this little dance trying to rescue each other. You know what? Leave all this finding thing like saving themselves back and forth and just do something that's new, right? Ants can have to move on for this one, insurance, and so does everybody else. Okay, so we're done with this fic. I will see you on the next one shot, and that's NSW, and then that will be called. I'm just gonna pause a second. We'll see what it's called. So this next one shot I'm going to read next will be called "Make Me a Drink." Right? Yeah, "Make Me a Drink" will be the next one. It's lifeguard Lance and bartender Keith. There's some shameless teasing. There's this. There's leaving mark. There's some that and that. As always, Keith's the top, bottom's the Lance. That will be the next one. Make Me a Drink is the next pick I'm going to read for the next one shot, and that's NSW. Alright, then we're done with this fic. We're done with this video as well. So see you next time. Goodbye.